Hello, dear listener. Welcome to Calm Cloud Chronicles, where imagination drifts and stories unfold. Sit back, relax, and let the journey begin. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more soothing tales. The Gripping Fable of the Unbelievable Astronaut. In a quiet, rain-soaked garage nestled within the sprawling city, Claire worked tirelessly, her hands trembling as they pieced together a strange and intricate machine. The storm outside mirrored her inner turmoil, each clap of thunder shaking loose the doubts that had clung to her for years. Claire, once a promising mechanical engineer, had become a recluse, haunted by voices from the past that told her she would never reach the stars. But tonight was different. Tonight, the rhythm of her tools was a heartbeat of rebellion. On the wall, a faded poster of Saturn bore the words, "Beyond Boundaries," a reminder of dreams she had nearly abandoned. As she adjusted the final piece of her creation, her phone buzzed on the edge of the table. She glanced at the glowing screen. "The Odyssey awaits. You're our last hope." The words stopped her cold. She knew the name, the Odyssey, a spacecraft veiled in secrecy, a legend whispered about among scientists. And now, it was calling her. Within hours, Claire found herself standing at the gates of a colossal spaceport, its towering structure silhouetted against the dying light of dawn. A stern-faced man approached her, Dr. Isaac. His every movement spoke of precision and secrecy, his eyes betraying the weight of unspoken truths. "This isn't just any mission," he said, his voice sharp yet measured. "We're chasing what lies beyond understanding. And you've glimpsed what others haven't. That makes you vital." Claire wanted to ask 100 questions, but something in his tone silenced her. Moments later, she was aboard the spacecraft, her heart pounding as the engines roared to life. The journey through the void was unlike anything she had imagined. The Odyssey sailed past celestial wonders, nebulae that burned like wildfire, asteroid fields that glimmered like shattered glass. Yet, something lingered just beneath the surface of their mission. Claire felt it in the hushed tones of the crew, the encrypted maps that flickered on the ship's console, the unspoken tension that gripped every corner of the Odyssey. It was during a solitary moment in the observation deck that she found it, a map buried within the ship's systems, marked with coordinates that defied all logic. "Doctor." Isaac caught her staring. "You've seen it," he said, his voice a murmur. "Then you understand, our destination isn't on any human chart. It's Lysera." The name sent a shiver through her. Lysera, a world of myth, the birthplace of infinite energy, a planet said to exist beyond the limits of known space. Their arrival was both magnificent and foreboding. Lysera's surface shimmered with an ethereal glow, its landscapes alive with a strange, pulsating energy. But as they ventured further, they encountered beings unlike anything they had prepared for, guardians of the planet's core, their forms fluid and radiant, their voices a resonance that echoed within the mind. "You seek what you do not comprehend," one of the beings warned. "Energy untempered will destroy both you and your fragile Earth." As the crew debated their next move, Claire's resolve hardened. She saw the greed in Dr. Isaac's eyes, the way he spoke of harnessing Lysera's power, not for the benefit of humanity, but for control. She knew she had to act. In an act of both defiance and sacrifice, Claire dismantled the ship's core engine, using its energy to stabilize Lysera's volatile power. She forged a fragile alliance with the Guardians, ensuring the planet's protection. The Odyssey, now powerless to remain, began its slow drift back to Earth, leaving Claire behind. Standing on the alien world's surface, Claire gazed up at its twin moons, her heart heavy yet unburdened. The stars, she thought, were never meant to be tamed. They were meant to remind us of who we are, and who we could become. And so, she remained, a solitary figure on a planet of legends, her story drifting across the cosmos like a whisper, waiting to inspire the next dreamer. The tale of Claire doesn't end on Lysera, for her presence becomes a ripple in the fabric of the cosmos, a ripple that awakens dormant forces, both on Earth and beyond. As Claire explores the planet, she discovers structures etched with alien inscriptions, their surfaces glowing faintly under Lysera's twin moons. These are remnants of civilizations long past, guardians who succumbed to the allure of unbridled power. The Guardians, observing her curiosity and restraint, begin to trust her. They share fragments of Lysera's history, teaching Claire about balance, a philosophy that transcends species and worlds. Through her time there, Claire uncovers a profound truth: Lysera's energy is tied to the life force of the universe itself. The core she once stabilized doesn't just sustain Lysera, it resonates across galaxies, connecting all living beings. This revelation transforms Claire. She realizes that humanity's survival isn't just about expanding its reach, it's about learning coexistence, respecting the delicate balance of creation. Back on Earth, the Odyssey's return is met with both awe and tension. Dr. Isaac, now in a position of power, manipulates the story of Lysera to suit his ambitions, sparking a race among nations to uncover similar energies. The planet becomes a myth twisted into greed-fueled agendas, and Claire, lost to Lysera, is barely remembered by the world she left behind. But Lysera has other plans. Its guardians, stirred by the Earth's increasing imbalance, reach out through cosmic channels. Claire becomes their voice, her essence amplified by Lysera's energy. Across galaxies, messages are carried on winds of light, reaching those who seek harmony. Her words ignite something within humanity. Claire's story spreads not through machines or power-hungry leaders, but through dreamers, wanderers, and those yearning for change. They see her sacrifice as a symbol, her journey as a lesson. Slowly, a shift begins. Whispers of unity replace cries for conquest, and Claire's fable becomes a beacon for the lost. Lysera, now intertwined with Claire's spirit, becomes a sanctuary not just for her, but for those willing to embrace its truths. It calls to new explorers, not to exploit, but to understand. And as Claire stands beneath the twin moons, her gaze now fixed on a distant star, she smiles. The stars, she reflects, are the greatest fable of all. And maybe, just maybe, we're learning to listen. Over the years, Claire's presence on Lysera grows less physical and more ethereal, as the planet itself begins to shape her into something extraordinary. She no longer simply lives upon Lysera, she becomes part of its very essence, its energy resonating in her thoughts and memories. The Guardians, aware of her unique bond with the planet, begin to refer to her as the unbound traveler. Claire herself feels the transformation in every heartbeat, as though she is no longer just herself but a voice for something greater. Her once earthbound dreams dissolve into stardust, replaced by visions of a universe interconnected, fragile, and full of wonder. Messages from Lysera seep into distant galaxies, carried on waves of light and sound, reaching those who wander the stars in search of meaning. Claire's story becomes a whisper in cosmic corridors, a fable passed from one explorer to another. It is said that Lysera grants enlightenment to those who seek harmony, and for those who seek power, its silence is deafening. Meanwhile, on Earth, time marches on, and humanity faces an era of reckoning. The race for control over Lysera's secrets ignites conflict and strife, as governments and corporations vie for dominance. Yet Claire's story, now mythologized, begins to take root in the hearts of the disillusioned, the poets, the dreamers, the innovators who yearn for a future unmarred by greed. These dreamers form alliances, movements, and quiet rebellions, pushing against the tide of exploitation. They build technologies inspired by Lysera's teachings, not to conquer but to create, a step toward balance, respect, and coexistence. Claire's name becomes a rallying cry, a symbol of hope in the face of despair. Back on Lysera, Claire watches this unfold through the whispers of the Guardians. Her connection to Earth feels distant yet unbroken, like the soft glow of a lighthouse seen across a stormy sea. She wonders if humanity will truly learn, if they will rise above their fear and anger to grasp what Lysera offers, a second chance. One day, Lysera itself shifts, a ripple spreads across the planet's surface, reaching into the cosmos like a heartbeat. Claire feels it deeply, knowing this is not an end, but a beginning. Lysera has chosen to reveal itself, to extend its energy not as a resource but as a gift, a beacon calling to those who are ready. Ships arrive, not in conquest but in pilgrimage. Explorers who have heard Claire's story step onto Lysera's soil, their intentions clear and humble. They do not demand, they simply listen. And as Lysera guides them through its mysteries, Claire watches, her heart filled with cautious hope. Humanity begins to change, not overnight but gradually, as the lessons of Lysera seep into the fabric of their existence. The stars, once symbols of ambition and conquest, become emblems of connection and wonder. And Claire, now one with Lysera, becomes not just a character in the story but the story itself, a fable whispered across the cosmos, binding dreamers and explorers in the shared light of possibility. Lysera was unlike any world Claire could have imagined, a living enigma that pulsed with beauty and danger in equal measure. Its landscape seemed alive, as though the very ground breathed and shifted in harmony with some unseen rhythm. The planet's surface was an iridescent mosaic of crystalline structures and shimmering fields, their colors shifting with the light of its twin moons. The air itself seemed to hum, filled with an energy that resonated in Claire's chest like the strings of an unseen harp. Rivers of liquid light wound through the valleys, glowing faintly as if carrying the lifeblood of the planet. These rivers converged in great pools, their surfaces perfectly still, reflecting the sky above with startling clarity. But what truly set Lysera apart were its ancient edifices, monolithic structures that jutted out of the landscape like forgotten sentinels. Each was etched with symbols that seemed to move when observed from the corner of one's eye, their meanings just out of reach. Claire spent days exploring these ruins, running her hands over their smooth, cool surfaces, marveling at the craftsmanship of a civilization that had long since faded into mystery. The guardians of Lysera, translucent beings of light and fluidity, explained that the structures were not merely buildings but conduits. They were designed to channel Lysera's boundless energy, distributing it across the planet in a delicate equilibrium. Each conduit was attuned to the core, a pulsating sphere of raw energy buried deep beneath the planet's surface. The core was both the heart and mind of Lysera, a force of creation and balance that governed everything from the planet's weather to its magnetic fields. The Guardians revealed that Lysera was more than a world, it was a nexus, a place where the threads of the cosmos converged. Its energy didn't just sustain the planet, it connected galaxies, creating a vast network that allowed beings from distant worlds to communicate, learn, and evolve. Yet, this connection was fragile. The Guardians spoke of ancient civilizations that had tried to harness Lysera's energy for their own ends. Each attempt had ended in catastrophe, the imbalance causing devastation that echoed across the stars. That was why the Guardians existed, to protect Lysera and ensure its energy was never exploited again. As Claire delved deeper into Lysera's secrets, she felt a growing connection to the planet. She began to hear its voice, not in words but in feelings and impressions. It was as if Lysera was alive, aware of her presence and her intentions. The planet seemed to guide her, showing her hidden pathways and revealing truths that transcended language. One evening, under the light of the twin moons, Claire stood at the edge of one of the glowing rivers. She felt the energy of Lysera coursing through her, filling her with a sense of purpose and belonging. This world, she thought, isn't just a place. It's a living, breathing story, a fable waiting to be told. She made it her mission to protect Lysera, not just from humanity's greed but from the scars left by the past. She worked alongside the Guardians, repairing the damaged conduits and restoring the delicate balance of the planet's energy. In doing so, she felt herself changing, her connection to Lysera deepening until she could no longer tell where she ended and the planet began. Lysera became her home, her sanctuary, and her teacher. And as she looked out at the endless expanse of stars, she knew that her story was only the beginning, that Lysera's light would one day reach every corner of the universe, inspiring others to seek balance, wonder, and unity. As time moved forward on Lysera, Claire's transformation became something not even she could fully comprehend. The Guardians had revealed to her that Lysera was alive in ways unlike any planet humanity had known. It wasn't merely a world but a nexus of consciousness, a place where ideas and emotions flowed in harmony with energy. Claire found herself increasingly drawn to the crystalline structures scattered across the surface. They seemed to pulse with a faint glow, not just of light but of knowledge. When she placed her hand against them, she felt whispers, fragments of thoughts, memories, and histories from beings who had stood where she stood, stretching across the eons. One day, while wandering near Lysera's largest energy pool, Claire stumbled upon a cavern hidden behind a waterfall of liquid light. Inside, the walls shimmered with vibrant symbols, each one flickering as though alive. She recognized fragments of Earth's languages woven into the glyphs, proof that Lysera had been influencing civilizations across the stars long before she had arrived. As she stepped deeper into the cavern, she reached a central chamber where an orb, radiating energy in waves of every imaginable color, hovered in the air. This was Lysera's heart, the core, and Claire felt its presence flood through her, as if she were being welcomed into an ancient and sacred bond. The Guardians, appearing in fluid forms around her, explained the significance of the orb. Lysera's core wasn't just a source of power, it was the fulcrum upon which the balance of the universe rested. Every decision made on Lysera reverberated across galaxies, shaping destinies far beyond its borders. One Guardian said, their voice a harmonious blend of thoughts and emotions, have touched the light of harmony. You are no longer just Claire. You are a thread woven into Lysera's fabric, its voice among the stars. Claire knew then that she could never return to Earth, not in the way she had imagined. Lysera had become her home, her purpose, and her guide. But she also knew she couldn't abandon humanity. Lysera had chosen her to be its emissary, a bridge between worlds, a reminder of what could be achieved through balance and respect. From that moment, Claire's connection to Lysera deepened. She began to travel the planet not just physically but spiritually, her mind and energy entwined with its rhythms. She discovered ancient knowledge hidden in its landscapes, truths about the cosmos, about creation, and about the delicate interplay between existence and destruction. As she stood atop Lysera's highest peak, where the twin moons bathed the world in silver light, Claire felt the weight of her journey. Her story was no longer just hers, it was Lysera's, humanity's, and the universe's, a story of transformation, resilience, and hope. And as the stars stretched endlessly before her, she whispered softly, her voice carried by the winds of Lysera, "The fable isn't over. It's only just begun." As Claire grew deeper into her role as Lysera's emissary, she began to unravel the connections hidden within the vast tapestry of the universe. Lysera's guardians had been right. The planet was not an isolated wonder but a pivotal thread in a cosmic web that extended far beyond the reaches of human understanding. One night, as the twin moons glowed brighter than ever, Claire felt a pull, a silent call from Lysera's core. When she approached the radiant orb, it pulsed gently, as though greeting her. This time, the connection was stronger, more vivid. She was no longer just hearing impressions, she was seeing visions, glimpses of other worlds, their inhabitants, their triumphs, and their struggles. Claire saw a world of perpetual twilight, its skies painted in shades of indigo and gold. There, its people moved in harmony with great, luminous trees that seemed to sing as they swayed in the wind. Another vision revealed a water-covered planet, its oceans teeming with cities submerged in crystalline domes. She even glimpsed a barren, desolate moon where small pockets of resilient life clung desperately to survival. Through these visions, Claire realized that Lysera was not merely a source of energy but a hub of understanding. Its core acted as a mediator, gathering the stories, wisdom, and pains of countless civilizations and ensuring that the balance of life was upheld. But this revelation also unveiled a chilling truth. There was something threatening this balance, a force moving across the web of existence, unraveling the threads that bound these worlds together. It manifested as shadows in the visions Claire experienced, an encroaching void that left devastation in its wake. The Guardians had known about this threat but were powerless to stop it alone. They explained to Claire that Lysera had once communicated freely with other planets through its energy network, but the connections had grown faint over millennia. Now, it needed an intermediary, a being capable of reigniting those bonds. "You, Claire," one guardian said, its form glowing softly in the moonlight, are the bridge we have waited for. Through you, Lysera's voice will travel once more." Claire accepted the responsibility, knowing it would test every ounce of her resolve. She began to work with the Guardians to amplify Lysera's energy, creating beacons that would reach the other worlds she had seen in her visions. Each beacon required her to attune herself fully to the core, a process that was both exhilarating and draining. As the first beacon ignited, Claire felt its signal ripple outward, a wave of light traveling through the vast expanse of space. She imagined it reaching those distant worlds, rekindling connections long thought lost. But with each success came new challenges. The shadowy force seemed to sense her actions and began to push back. On one occasion, while synchronizing a beacon, Claire was overwhelmed by a sudden surge of darkness. Her connection to Lysera flickered, and she found herself trapped in a vision of chaos, a world engulfed by shadow, its once thriving cities reduced to ruins. She felt the despair of its inhabitants, their cries echoing in her mind. When she regained consciousness, she was shaken but determined. The shadows were no longer abstract, they were real, and they were growing stronger. Claire resolved to learn more about this force. With the Guardian's guidance, she ventured deep into Lysera's hidden archives, ancient caverns where the knowledge of countless civilizations was stored in crystal tablets. As she studied, she uncovered records of a primordial entity, the Voidweaver. It was a being that fed on imbalance, sowing discord and consuming the energy of worlds until nothing remained. The Voidweaver, she realized, was not just a threat to Lysera but to the entire cosmos. And she, Claire, once a disillusioned dreamer on Earth, was now at the center of a struggle that spanned galaxies. Armed with Lysera's wisdom and her growing bond with its energy, Claire set out to strengthen the beacons and rally other worlds to the cause. Her journey was far from over, but she carried within her the hope of a universe united, a hope that even in the face of shadows, light would prevail. Claire's journey grew increasingly extraordinary as Lysera shared with her the profound depths of its mysteries. While the Voidweaver loomed as a dark specter threatening the fragile balance of existence, Lysera revealed another truth, one hidden in the folds of time and space, accessible only through Claire's evolving connection to the planet. One quiet evening, as Claire sat by a glowing river of liquid light, the energy around her shifted subtly. The sound of the flowing stream harmonized with an otherworldly hum, and the air shimmered like a veil had been lifted. Claire felt the pull once more, a silent yet insistent call that seemed to emerge from the stars themselves. Guided by intuition, she followed the sound to a crystalline grove hidden deep within Lysera's heartland. The trees here were unlike anything she had seen before, towering structures of translucent crystal, their branches reaching out like hands extended in welcome. As she stepped closer, she realized that the hum came from within these trees, their trunks vibrating with an almost melodic resonance. When she placed her hand on one of them, the world around her dissolved into light. Claire found herself standing amidst a kaleidoscope of swirling colors, shapes and patterns that danced like living constellations. She knew instantly that this was Lysera's nexus, a place where the planet's consciousness converged most powerfully with the cosmic web. It was here that she encountered the Weavers. Unlike Lysera's guardians, these beings were abstract, their forms shifting between light and shadow, their voices a blend of many tones at once. They explained to Claire that they existed on the edge of reality, mending the threads of the cosmic web to maintain its integrity. "We are caretakers of the flow," one weaver said, its voice cascading like a waterfall of sound. "But something ancient has begun to fray the threads. The Voidweaver is not just a force of destruction. It is a hunger, a void that grows when balance is lost." Claire felt a pang of doubt. How could she, a single being, stand against something so vast and primal? But the weavers reassured her. "You are more than you know," they said in unison. "Lysera has chosen you not for your strength but for your heart. To mend the web, you must first understand its design." The weavers extended their luminous threads to her, each one pulsing with faint light. As Claire touched them, she saw glimpses of other worlds connected by the web, worlds that had been saved, worlds that had fallen, and worlds still teetering on the edge. She realized that the Voidweaver thrived not merely on chaos but on the loss of harmony, the disconnection of worlds from one another. Her path became clear. She would travel to these worlds, reigniting their connections to the web and helping them rediscover the balance they had lost. It would not be an easy journey. Each world would have its own challenges, its own struggles, and its own wounds to heal. But Claire was determined. With Lysera's energy coursing through her, she began to prepare for her first voyage beyond the planet. The guardians and weavers guided her, teaching her to channel Lysera's light into a beacon strong enough to cross the void. As the beacon activated, Claire felt a surge of exhilaration and fear, a leap into the unknown. The stars stretched out before her, and in an instant, she was standing on the surface of a new world. It was barren and cold, its sky a deep crimson. Towers of blackened stone jutted from the ground like broken teeth, and the air carried a sense of sorrow so profound that it weighed on her chest. This was a world that had been severed from the web, its energy drained, its people lost to despair. Claire felt the echoes of their pain, their longing for something they could no longer name. But she also felt Lysera within her, a spark of light in the darkness. She extended her hand and spoke, not with words but with the energy of connection, the resonance of Lysera's balance. Slowly, the towers began to shimmer, their blackened surfaces shedding layers of ash to reveal veins of glowing crystal beneath. A faint light began to spread across the horizon, and Claire knew that this was just the beginning. The web was vast, and the threads were fragile. But with each step, with each world, she would mend what had been broken, and the stars would once again sing in harmony. The journey became more intricate as Claire ventured deeper into her mission to mend the cosmic web. Each world she visited revealed a new layer of complexity, a new story etched into the threads of existence, and a new challenge that tested her courage and resolve. Yet through it all, Lysera remained her guiding light, its energy an unwavering beacon in the darkest corners of the universe. One of the most enigmatic worlds she reached was called Mirith, a planet suspended in perpetual twilight, its sky painted in hues of violet and gold. Mirith was a place of contradiction. Its surface shimmered with delicate ecosystems thriving within crystal canopies, yet its heart was fractured, its energy flow disrupted by the shadows of the Voidweaver. Upon landing, Claire was met not by devastation but by silence, a kind of stillness so profound that it seemed the planet itself had stopped breathing. She wandered through its crystalline forests, the soft hum of Lysera's energy resonating within her as she sought answers. It was here that she encountered the Radiants, beings of pure light whose forms mirrored the refracted glow of Mirith's sky. Unlike Lysera's guardians, the Radiants were fragmented, their voices carrying an undertone of sorrow as they spoke to her in fleeting melodies. Claire, they sang softly, their tones weaving through the twilight. This place was once whole, its balance a symphony sung across the stars. But the Voidweaver has silenced our voice, leaving only echoes. Through the Radiant's fragmented tales, Claire learned of Mirith's connection to the cosmic web. The planet had been a keystone of harmony, a hub where energies converged and resonated, amplifying the balance of the entire network. But the Voidweaver, drawn to the vulnerability of unity, had severed Mirith from the web, unraveling its threads and plunging its energy into stagnation. Claire knew she had to act swiftly. With Lysera's energy guiding her, she sought out the nexus point where Mirith's flow had been disrupted. It was buried deep within a crystalline cavern, its entrance hidden beneath a vast lake that glowed faintly under the twilight sky. As she descended into the cavern, she felt the weight of the Voidweaver's presence, a dark pulse that echoed through the fragile crystal walls. At the nexus point, she discovered the core of Mirith, a radiant orb similar to Lysera's, but fractured and dim. Its surface was veined with shadows, its light struggling to emerge. Claire reached out, allowing Lysera's energy to flow through her and into Mirith's core. The process was agonizing, as the shadows pushed back, threatening to consume her. But Claire's connection to Lysera had grown strong, her resolve unshakable. She focused on the harmony she had felt on Lysera, channeling its balance into the fractured core. Slowly, the shadows began to dissipate, and the core pulsed with renewed light. The cavern itself seemed to awaken, the crystal walls vibrating with a melody that resonated through Mirith's skies. The Radiants appeared, their forms glowing brighter as they joined Claire in amplifying the energy flow. When the process was complete, Claire emerged from the cavern to find Mirith transformed. The twilight sky had deepened in color, its hues more vibrant, its light more alive. The planet's ecosystems began to flourish once more, their delicate balance restored. The Radiants, now whole, stood before Claire, their voices a harmonious chorus. "You have mended the thread," they sang, "but the web remains fragile. The Voidweaver's shadow lingers, and the journey is far from over. Yet through your light, we see hope." Claire nodded, understanding the weight of their words. Mirith was only one thread among countless others, and the Voidweaver's hunger was vast. But with each connection restored, Claire felt the balance of the cosmos growing stronger, its light pushing back against the encroaching void. As she prepared to leave Mirith, Claire gazed at the twilight sky one last time, her heart filled with both determination and wonder. The web may be fragile, she thought, but even the smallest light can defy the darkness. With Lysera's energy as her guide, Claire stepped onto the beacon platform, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. The journey continued, and the fable grew ever more intricate, a story of light and shadow, unity and struggle, and the unyielding hope that bound them together. Claire's next journey brought her to a world unlike any she had visited before. It was a place where time itself seemed to bend and blur, a realm suspended between moments, eternally caught in the flow of past, present, and future. This world was known as Viren, the Timeless Vale. When Claire arrived, she immediately felt the disorientation of its fractured reality. The sky above Viren shifted constantly, its colors flowing in waves of gold, violet, and deep cerulean. The terrain mirrored this fluidity, with great, drifting islands of rock and crystal floating gently in an endless sea of clouds. Time was not linear here. Claire would see plants bloom and wither in seconds, rivers reverse their flow, and structures rise and crumble as though history was playing on repeat. The nexus of Viren's connection to the cosmic web was hidden deep within the core of this strange, temporal tapestry. But reaching it would prove to be far more challenging than Claire anticipated. As she explored, fragments of Viren's history began to manifest around her. She saw ghostly echoes of beings that had once lived there, tall, shimmering forms that glided through the air like dancers. These were the Chronican, the inhabitants of Viren who had wielded the power of time to create a world of unimaginable beauty and harmony. But something had gone wrong. The Chronican had tried to manipulate the threads of time too boldly, attempting to weave their past, present, and future into a single perfect moment. In their ambition, they had unintentionally severed Viren's thread from the cosmic web, causing time to spiral out of control. The Voidweaver had found this chaos irresistible, feeding on the fractures and trapping the world in an eternal loop of imbalance. Claire's path to the core took her through the remains of Viren's once majestic cities, their golden towers frozen mid-collapse. As she moved, time's chaotic flow occasionally caught her, pulling her into fragments of the Chronican's lives. She witnessed their triumphs, their desperation, and their ultimate sorrow as their world unraveled. At last, Claire reached Viren's core, a crystalline heart suspended in a swirling vortex of light and shadow. It pulsed weakly, its energy barely holding the world together. The shadows of the Voidweaver clung to it, twisting its light and creating ripples of temporal distortion that spread across the planet. With Lysera's energy as her anchor, Claire began the delicate process of stabilizing the core. But this time, the Voidweaver's presence was more direct, its tendrils of shadow lashing out in an attempt to stop her. Each time it struck, Claire was thrown into a temporal fragment, forced to relive moments of her own past, her failures, her doubts, and the voices of those who had told her she would never reach the stars. It was only through her connection to Lysera that Claire found the strength to push forward. She focused on the light of balance, using it to counter the chaos of the Voidweaver's influence. As she worked, the core began to stabilize, its fractured light growing brighter and more harmonious. The final step required Claire to make a choice. The Chronican had left behind an imprint of their knowledge, a chance to restore their world to its former glory. But doing so would mean rewriting Viren's history, erasing both their mistakes and their lessons. Alternatively, Claire could leave Viren's history intact, allowing its people's story of ambition and loss to serve as a warning and a guide for others. Claire chose the latter. She stabilized the core without altering the Chronican's history, preserving both their triumphs and their failures as part of the cosmic web's tapestry. As Viren's core pulsed with renewed light, the time distortions began to fade, and the world's thread reconnected to the web. The ghostly echoes of the Chronican appeared one final time, their forms shimmering with gratitude. "You have restored balance without erasing the truth of who we were," they said. "Our story will now resonate across the stars, a lesson for those who follow." As Claire prepared to leave Viren, she felt a sense of fulfillment but also a growing weight. Each world she helped was a reminder of the immense responsibility she carried, and of the relentless presence of the Voidweaver. But she also felt hope, knowing that with each thread mended, the web grew stronger, its light pushing back the encroaching darkness. Claire activated the beacon and stepped into the light, her gaze fixed firmly on the endless stars ahead. The journey continued, and the fable expanded, drawing her ever closer to the mysteries at the heart of the cosmic web, and the ultimate confrontation with the Voidweaver. Claire stepped into the starry abyss once more, her heart a mixture of steady determination and unshakable wonder. Each world she touched was a piece of the puzzle, an intricate thread contributing to the cosmic web's larger story. Yet, Claire couldn't shake the lingering shadow of the Voidweaver. It wasn't just destruction, it was a presence, a hunger that followed her like a predator waiting for its moment. Her next destination was unlike anything she had encountered before, a world known as Caldera. This planet floated precariously close to a dying star, its fiery light casting an eternal twilight across the surface. On Caldera, fire was life. The ground itself pulsed with molten rivers, glowing veins of red and orange that crisscrossed vast plains of blackened rock. Great citadels, built from obsidian and basalt, rose high above the fiery landscape, their spires shaped by the planet's volcanic breath. But Caldera was on the brink of collapse. The star it orbited was growing unstable, its light flickering ominously. The Voidweaver, sensing the imbalance, had begun to seep into Caldera's core, accelerating its disintegration. The inhabitants of Caldera, a resilient people called the Ethelites, had done their best to hold the planet together. They were master builders, capable of harnessing the molten energy of Caldera to create structures that mirrored its volcanic beauty. Claire arrived amidst the chaos. The Ethelites greeted her with skepticism, unsure of what a stranger from a distant world could possibly offer in the face of their impending doom. Yet, Claire could feel Lysera's presence guiding her, urging her to act. She explained to the Ethelites the importance of Caldera's thread within the cosmic web, how its fiery energy wasn't just a resource but a vital connection that balanced countless other worlds. With their trust slowly won, Claire worked alongside the Ethelites to stabilize Caldera's core. It was a perilous task, requiring her to descend into the planet's heart, a molten chamber where the Voidweaver's tendrils were most concentrated. The heat was overwhelming, the air thick with ash and smoke, but Claire pushed forward, Lysera's light shielding her as she approached the core. The Voidweaver's presence was stronger than ever. Its shadow writhed around Caldera's core, twisting its fiery energy into chaotic bursts that threatened to engulf the chamber. Claire reached out, channeling Lysera's balance into the core, attempting to counter the Voidweaver's destruction. But the Voidweaver fought back, its shadows clawing at her mind with visions of collapse and despair. Claire's resolve was unwavering. She reminded herself of the world she had helped, the thread she had mended, and the light she had restored. She focused on Caldera's unique beauty, its molten rivers, its twilight skies, and the strength of its people. Slowly, the Voidweaver's shadows began to retreat, unable to withstand the harmony Claire was creating. When the process was complete, Caldera's core pulsed with renewed energy, stabilizing the planet's molten veins and halting the star's collapse. The Ethelites emerged from their citadels, gazing at the twilight sky with expressions of awe and hope. Their leader, a stoic yet compassionate figure named Aria, approached Claire. "You have given us more than balance," Aria said. "You have reignited our spirit. Caldera's fire will burn brightly again, not for destruction, but for creation." Claire nodded, feeling both satisfaction and exhaustion. Caldera was safe, but the Voidweaver's presence had grown stronger. Each encounter revealed more of its insidious nature, a force that thrived on imbalance and fed on the despair of disconnected worlds. As Claire activated the beacon to leave Caldera, she took one last look at the fiery landscape. Despite the shadows, she felt a flicker of optimism. Each thread she mended was a step closer to restoring the web, and each connection she strengthened pushed back the encroaching void. Her next destination awaited, a world of ice and silence, a place where the Voidweaver's presence was frozen yet deeply embedded. The journey continued, and Claire knew that the fable she was part of was far from over. Lysera, the radiant nexus of the cosmos, held depths and mysteries that continually revealed themselves to Claire. The planet's intricate balance was not just a reflection of energy, it was an embodiment of harmony itself, a living symphony composed of countless interconnected elements. The rivers of liquid light that crisscrossed Lysera's surface were more than they appeared. As Claire explored their shimmering pathways, she learned that these rivers acted as conduits, carrying information as well as energy. They pulsed with rhythms that seemed to tell stories, their glow shifting to match the emotional resonance of the planet. When Claire placed her hand into the cool, luminescent flow, she felt impressions of voices, ancient beings who had stood where she stood, their thoughts woven into Lysera's energy. The crystalline trees were no mere decoration, either. They were repositories of wisdom, their trunks engraved with glyphs that shimmered faintly under the twin moon's light. Each glyph corresponded to a thread within the cosmic web, representing a connection Lysera had forged across the stars. The trees themselves vibrated gently, their resonance filling the air with a melody that Claire often found herself humming, as if the tune had become part of her soul. The guardians, Lysera's shimmering protectors, spoke of a deeper connection, a secret hidden within the planet's core. While Claire had already encountered the radiant orb at the heart of Lysera, the guardians hinted at another layer of its essence, something beyond the physical. They explained that Lysera's core was not merely an energy source, it was an interdimensional gateway, a point where the boundaries of existence blurred. When Claire ventured closer to the core, she felt its pull more strongly than ever. Its vibrant energy seemed to envelop her, resonating with every thought, every heartbeat. The core showed her visions, not just of distant worlds but of the infinite possibilities within the cosmic web. It was here that she began to understand Lysera's true purpose. Lysera was not just a planet, it was a teacher, a guide for those who sought balance. Its existence reminded Claire that harmony was not a fixed state but a journey, a delicate interplay of forces that required constant attention and care. The planet's role within the cosmic web was to illuminate this truth, offering its energy not to control but to inspire. But Lysera also had its own vulnerabilities. The Voidweaver's shadows, though kept at bay, were never far from its edges. Claire learned that Lysera's harmony was only as strong as the connections it maintained. If the threads of the web frayed, Lysera itself could falter, its light dimming under the weight of imbalance. Claire took this knowledge to heart as she prepared for her next journey. She knew that each world she visited, each thread she mended, was not just a step toward restoring the cosmic web, it was a step toward safeguarding Lysera itself. Before leaving, Claire sat beneath the crystalline trees, their gentle resonance filling her with a sense of peace. She looked out at the glowing rivers and shimmering fields, feeling the weight of her mission but also the warmth of Lysera's light within her. This place, she thought, is more than a home. It's a beacon, a reminder of what the universe can be when its threads are woven together. With Lysera's energy coursing through her, Claire stepped onto the beacon platform, ready to face the stars once more. The journey continued, and Lysera's light guided her every step, a constant in the ever-shifting tapestry of the cosmos. As Claire stepped onto the platform to leave Caldera, something unusual happened. Instead of the familiar surge of Lysera's beacon activating and carrying her through the cosmic web, she felt an overwhelming sensation of stillness. The light enveloping her flickered erratically, its usual warmth replaced by a cold, unnerving hum. When the light dissipated, Claire found herself not on the icy world she had anticipated but back on Lysera, except it wasn't the Lysera she knew. The crystalline trees were darkened, their resonance silent. The rivers of liquid light no longer flowed, they were frozen in place like a stagnant memory. Above her, the twin moons were eclipsed, casting the planet into an unnatural gloom. Claire's heart raced as she wandered through this shadowed version of Lysera. Everything was familiar yet wrong, as though she had stepped into a fractured reflection of the planet she had come to love. The guardians were absent, their usual shimmering forms replaced by faint, flickering echoes. Then she saw it, a figure standing in the distance, silhouetted against the still horizon. As she approached, the figure turned, and Claire froze. It was her. The version of herself standing before her was a haunting sight. This Claire looked weary, her eyes hollow, her once bright demeanor dimmed by despair. The other Claire spoke, her voice a blend of exhaustion and accusation. "You think you're saving the web," the other Claire said, her tone sharp. "But every thread you mend strengthens the Voidweaver just as much as it strengthens the light." Claire stared, her thoughts swirling in confusion and disbelief. "What are you talking about?" "The Voidweaver feeds on imbalance, on chaos. I'm restoring balance." The shadowed Claire shook her head. "Are you? Or are you playing into its hands? The Voidweaver doesn't just destroy, it adapts. Every connection you restore gives it a new path, a new opportunity to spread its influence. You think you're winning, but you're only giving it more to consume." The words cut deep, filling Claire with doubt. Could it be true? Was her journey, her mission, actually making things worse? The shadowed Claire stepped closer, her expression softening into something almost sympathetic. "You can stop it, she said. "You don't have to keep fighting. Leave the web as it is, frayed, imperfect. It's the only way to contain the Voidweaver." Claire's thoughts whirled. If what this version of herself said was true, then everything she had done, every world she had helped, every thread she had mended, might have been in vain. But Lysera's light still pulsed faintly within her, a reminder of the harmony she had seen, the connection she had felt. She clenched her fists, her resolve hardening. "Even if that's true, I can't give up. Balance isn't about perfection, it's about resilience. The web isn't just energy, it's people, their stories, their hope. If I stop now, the Voidweaver wins anyway." The shadowed Claire studied her for a long moment before stepping back, a faint smile on her lips. "Then let's see if your light can truly hold against the void." Before Claire could respond, the shadowed world dissolved around her, and she found herself standing in the crystalline grove of Lysera once more. The trees hummed softly, the rivers flowed again, and the twin moons cast their silver light over the planet. But Claire knew this wasn't a mere vision or hallucination. The Voidweaver had shown her its strategy, planting seeds of doubt that would haunt her every step forward. Yet, as she looked out over Lysera's radiant beauty, she felt her resolve renew. This wasn't just about mending threads or restoring balance. It was about facing the truth of what the web represented. Every thread mattered, not because it was perfect, but because it was part of the whole. And Claire would fight, not just for Lysera or the cosmic web, but for every being whose light deserved to shine. Her journey had just taken a darker turn, but she wouldn't let the shadow consume her. The fable was far from over. Claire's encounter with her shadowed self lingered in her thoughts as she journeyed toward her next destination, a world so enigmatic that even Lysera's light seemed hesitant to touch it. This place was known simply as Karen, the silent orbit. Suspended on the edge of a black hole, Karen existed in a perpetual twilight, its skies painted with streaks of cosmic distortion as the black hole's gravity twisted light itself. As Claire approached, she noticed something chilling. Karen was eerily still. Unlike the vibrant world she had visited, this planet seemed devoid of motion, life, and sound. Even the distant black hole, immense and foreboding, felt like a silent observer, a vast nothingness pulling at the edges of reality. When Claire touched down, she was struck by the sensation of weight, an invisible force pressing against her as if the silence itself carried mass. The ground beneath her feet was composed of smooth obsidian, reflecting faint glimmers of starlight. Karen's landscape was dotted with towering monoliths, their surfaces engraved with swirling patterns that seemed to pulse faintly, though no sound or movement accompanied them. Lysera's light pulsed within her, steady but subdued. The Guardians had warned her that Karen's connection to the cosmic web was unlike anything she had encountered. The planet's thread was not frayed, it was missing entirely. Karen had been severed, its thread lost in the black hole's gravitational pull, leaving the planet isolated and vulnerable. As Claire ventured deeper into Karen's desolate expanse, she began to notice traces of something familiar yet ominous, the Voidweaver's influence. Its shadows were faint here, like echoes rather than tangible presences, but they were unmistakably woven into the fabric of the planet itself. In the heart of Karen's silence, Claire found a structure unlike any she had ever seen, a massive, spiral-shaped edifice that seemed to reach both into the ground and the sky, as if anchoring Karen to the universe. At the center of the spiral was a pool of liquid that shimmered with an unnatural stillness. Claire approached the pool, feeling Lysera's energy grow tense within her. When she looked into the liquid, she didn't see her reflection, she saw threads, countless threads of light and shadow, stretching out into the void, intertwining and unraveling in an endless dance. As she focused, the threads began to shift, revealing images of other worlds, other times. She saw Lysera glowing brightly, its rivers of light pulsing with harmony. She saw Caldera, its molten core stabilized, its people thriving under the twilight sky. But she also saw shadowy tendrils creeping into these worlds, undoing the balance she had worked so hard to restore. Then the image changed. Claire saw herself, not the shadowed version she had encountered, but her current self, standing in Lysera's crystalline grove. Behind her, the Voidweaver loomed, its form vast and amorphous, its tendrils reaching out not to destroy but to merge with Lysera's light. Claire's breath caught. The Voidweaver wasn't simply an external force of chaos, it was tied to the web itself, a shadow born from imbalance but capable of adapting, evolving, and merging with the very energy she sought to protect. As the vision faded, Claire felt a presence behind her. She turned to see a figure emerging from the spiral structure, a being composed of light and shadow, its form constantly shifting and shimmering. "I am the keeper," it said, its voice a blend of resonance and silence. "I guard what remains of Karen's thread." "I am the keeper," it said, its voice a blend of resonance and silence. "I guard what remains of Karen's thread." Claire stepped forward cautiously. "Why is Karen severed from the web? What happened here?" The keeper tilted its head, its form rippling. Karen was the anchor, the thread upon which all others depended. Its balance was perfect, too perfect. The Voidweaver was drawn to it, not to consume but to mirror. In its attempt to mimic harmony, it unraveled Karen's thread, pulling it into the void. Claire's mind raced. If Karen had been the anchor, its severance explained the instability she had encountered across the cosmos. The Voidweaver wasn't just a destroyer, it was a parasite, feeding on balance to perpetuate itself. The keeper stepped closer. You carry Lysera's light, the harmony of balance. But you also carry its burden. To restore the web, Karen's thread must be found and reconnected. But beware, for the Voidweaver lies at the heart of the void, waiting. Claire's resolve hardened. The fable was no longer just about mending frayed threads. It was about confronting the Voidweaver directly, understanding its nature, and finding a way to protect the web from its relentless hunger. As she stepped away from the pool, Lysera's light flared within her, its warmth a reminder of the world she fought for. The journey had taken another turn, deeper into the unknown, but Claire was ready. Claire stood before the keeper, her mind flooded with questions as she gazed at the swirling pool. Karen's silence was oppressive, yet it held a strange beauty, a stillness that seemed to hide truths too profound for motion or sound to capture. The faint images of threads, worlds, and shadows that danced in the pool lingered in her thoughts, but the keeper's words weighed heavier. Karen's thread must be found, the keeper had said. But how could she find something lost to the void, a place where even light struggled to escape? As Claire traced the spiral structure, Lysera's light pulsed faintly within her, a steady reminder of balance. She reached out to the engraved patterns that adorned the monoliths, her fingertips brushing the smooth surfaces. Immediately, she felt a resonance, a faint hum that vibrated deep in her chest, pulling her toward the pool once more. The keeper, its shifting form steadying beside her, spoke again. The void does not simply consume, it holds. Karen's thread lies within the black hole's heart, trapped in an eternal spiral. To restore it, you must enter. Claire stared at the keeper, disbelief flickering across her face. Enter the black hole? That's impossible. Lysera's light can guide me, but even it can't protect me from something like that. The keeper tilted its head, its form rippling like starlight caught in water. Lysera's light is not merely protection, it is connection. The web will hold you if you trust its threads. The word settled uneasily in Claire's mind. Was Lysera's light truly strong enough to guide her through the void? She looked to the distant horizon, where the black hole loomed like an immense, silent eye, watching her every move. Despite her fear, she knew the keeper was right. Karen's thread was vital. Its restoration could strengthen the web and weaken the Voidweaver's grip on the cosmos. Claire turned back to the pool. As she gazed into its depths, the thread seemed to respond, shifting and swirling faster as if preparing for her journey. Lysera's light pulsed brighter within her, a warmth spreading through her chest. Taking a steadying breath, Claire stepped into the pool. The liquid was cool and weightless, enveloping her in a shimmering cocoon. As the pool's energy merged with Lysera's light, Claire felt herself being pulled, not just downward but outward, into a realm where space and time lost meaning. The transition was disorienting. Claire found herself in a void so vast that it defied comprehension. There was no up or down, no forward or backward, just an endless expanse of shadow interwoven with faint glimmers of light. She floated, Lysera's energy anchoring her as she searched for Karen's thread. The black hole's gravity was relentless, tugging at her from all directions. Yet Lysera's light held firm, creating a protective barrier that allowed her to move through the swirling chaos. As she ventured deeper, the glimmers of light grew brighter, taking on the shape of threads, fractured and frayed, but undeniably there. Claire reached out to one of the threads, her touch igniting a burst of light that illuminated the void. For a brief moment, she saw flashes of Karen's history, a world vibrant with motion and sound, its connection to the web so strong that its energy resonated across galaxies. She saw its downfall as the Voidweaver's shadow crept in, unraveling the thread and pulling it into the black hole spiral. The vision faded, leaving Claire with a renewed sense of urgency. She began to weave Lysera's light into the fragmented threads, mending their connections and restoring their resonance. The process was difficult, the void pushed back, shadows coiling around her, whispering doubts into her mind. "You will fail," the shadows hissed. "Balance cannot hold against the void. Harmony will always collapse into chaos." Claire gritted her teeth, her resolve unwavering. Harmony isn't about holding, it's about rebuilding. Every collapse is a chance to rise stronger. With each thread she mended, the void grew lighter, the oppressive silence giving way to faint echoes of sound. Karen's connection to the web began to re-emerge, its thread glowing brightly amidst the darkness. Finally, Claire reached the heart of the void, a place where light and shadow converged in a swirling vortex. Here, Karen's thread was anchored, its energy caught in an eternal spiral. Claire extended Lysera's light, weaving it into the vortex and pulling the thread free. As the thread reconnected to the web, the black hole's pull weakened. Claire felt herself being drawn upward, back toward Karen's surface. When she emerged from the pool, the planet was transformed. The oppressive silence had lifted, replaced by a gentle hum that resonated across the obsidian plains. The monoliths glowed faintly, their engraved patterns shimmering with life. The keeper appeared once more, its form steady and bright. "You have restored Karen's voice," it said. "The web grows stronger, yet the Voidweaver remains. It will not relent." Claire nodded, her determination unshaken. The journey ahead would be even more perilous, but Lysera's light remained her guide, a beacon of hope in the face of darkness. As she stepped onto the beacon platform, Claire looked back at Karen one last time. The planet's silence had become a song, its thread once again a vital part of the cosmic web. Her path was far from over, but each step brought her closer to understanding the Voidweaver, and to defeating it. The stars stretched before her, their light brighter than ever. Claire's journey continued, the fable growing deeper with every thread she restored. Claire's journey through the cosmic web brought her full circle. She had ventured to worlds teetering on the edge of collapse, faced the Voidweaver's shadows in their many forms, and restored threads that had long been severed. Each step had tested her resolve, sharpened her understanding, and deepened her connection to Lysera's light. But now, she stood before the final challenge, the heart of the Voidweaver itself. The destination was a place unlike any other, a realm beyond comprehension where the web's threads converged most strongly. Known only as the Nexus of Shadows, it was a swirling vortex of light and dark, a fragile equilibrium that had been corrupted by the Voidweaver's insatiable hunger. Claire stepped into the Nexus, her form bathed in Lysera's radiant glow. The threads of the web stretched infinitely in all directions, their energy flowing in brilliant streams of light. But interwoven among them were the Voidweaver's tendrils, shadowy currents that twisted and coiled, seeking to disrupt the harmony. The Nexus seemed alive, responding to Claire's presence as the threads pulsed brighter and the shadows writhed in agitation. At the center of it all stood the Voidweaver, its form vast and amorphous, shifting between shadow and faint impressions of light. It did not speak in words but in emotions, impressions that echoed in Claire's mind. "You have come far," it resonated, its presence filling the Nexus. "But balance is an illusion. Harmony collapses into chaos, and chaos into harmony. I am the cycle. I am the truth of existence." Claire stepped forward, her voice steady despite the weight of the Voidweaver's presence. "You are not truth. You are distortion, a parasite feeding on imbalance. The web is more than energy, it's connection. It's hope. And that is stronger than your chaos." The Voidweaver's tendrils lashed out, striking at the threads, twisting them into fractured patterns. Claire felt the disruption ripple through the web, threatening to undo everything she had worked for. But Lysera's light flared within her, a steady beacon that guided her forward. Drawing on the energy of the web, Claire began to weave Lysera's light into the Nexus. It was a delicate process, restoring the balance without severing the Voidweaver completely. She understood now that the Voidweaver was not simply a force to be defeated but a part of the web itself. It had emerged from imbalance, but it could be transformed, reshaped into a thread that contributed to harmony rather than chaos. As Claire worked, the Voidweaver's resistance grew stronger. Its shadows coiled around her, whispering doubts into her mind. Memories of failure, moments of despair, and echoes of her shadowed self returned to haunt her. "You cannot succeed," the Voidweaver hissed. "Your light is finite. You will falter." Claire closed her eyes, grounding herself in the warmth of Lysera's light. She thought of the world she had visited, the fiery resilience of Caldera, the timeless lessons of Viren, the restored voice of Karen. Each connection she had mended gave her strength, each story she had witnessed fueled her resolve. "You're wrong," Claire said, her voice steady and unwavering. "Light doesn't falter. It adapts. It grows. It connects." With one final surge of energy, Claire wove Lysera's light into the nexus, creating a pattern that intertwined the Voidweaver's shadows with the web's brilliance. The threads pulsed in harmony, their fractured ends mending as the balance was restored. The Voidweaver's form began to shift, its shadows softening into faint currents of light. It did not disappear but transformed, its presence no longer disruptive but a part of the web's intricate design. As the nexus stabilized, Claire felt a profound sense of peace. The web glowed brighter than ever, its threads flowing with energy and connection. Lysera's light pulsed within her, a reminder of the journey she had undertaken and the resilience she had discovered. The nexus itself began to fade, its purpose fulfilled as the web returned to balance. Claire stood in the radiant light of Lysera, the planet's twin moons casting their gentle glow across the crystalline landscape. She gazed at the stars, her heart filled with wonder and hope. The fable of the unbelievable astronaut had reached its conclusion, but its echoes would resonate across the cosmos, a story of balance, resilience, and the unyielding power of connection. And as Claire sat beneath the crystalline trees of Lysera, their gentle resonance filling the air, she smiled. The journey had changed her, transformed her into something extraordinary. The stars, she thought, will always hold the fables of those who dare to dream. And maybe, just maybe, those dreams will light the way for those who follow. The web was whole again, its light shining brightly across galaxies. Claire's story was complete, yet it was only the beginning, for the threads of the web carried her legacy, inspiring dreamers across the cosmos to seek balance and harmony in their own journeys. Thank you for being a part of Calm Cloud Chronicles. What kind of stories help you relax the most? Please let us know in comments below. If you enjoyed this story, let us know by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Until next time, stay peaceful and keep dreaming.